So I was doing my thing, wasting time scrolling on Facebook, and I came across an interesting comment section that was kind of discussing the nuances of a box stock Mini Z class. And after having raced for about 6 months, here's my thoughts on that. So I currently race 3 classes on a weekly basis up at Area RC. The first one is called Kyosho Stock. So for that, I run this car. Now, if you're talking about a box stock class, it's pretty obvious that that car is not exactly stock. You can easily tell just by the body alone isn't Kyosho. And then the front wheels are also aftermarket. Those are PN. It is running Kyosho tires all the way around. That's about it for this car. Basically, the body and the wheels are the only things that aren't from Kyosho. And then the other car that I run is called Stock Class. So the Stock Class, you're actually allowed to use alternate tires as well that don't necessarily come from Kyosho. So this is the car that I run in that class. Obviously, you can see it has the C9 body and then PN wheels all the way around. And then I'm running PN KSK 540s with Marca 20 Shore rears. That class is also a stock class, yet that car has quite a few parts that don't necessarily come from Kyosho or in the box. Every track does it a little bit differently. For example, I just raced up at Spare Time, and in their box stock class, they do allow the other tires, but I had to switch my stock car to the Joe Morema body since they don't allow the C9 with the Lexan roof. You can get real out in the weeds on this. There's a couple different rule sets online, including Marks from Area RC, but I think the biggest thing to think about is just the goal of a box stock class. So to me, the 2 main benefits to a racer of a box stock class are A, cost, because you just buy your Mini Z and then you go racing. And then B is going to be simplicity. So for somebody that's new to RC and maybe even racing in general, there's going to be a steep learning curve with setup. So not only how do we make the car fast, but how do we make it act like we want it to, drive in a pretty consistent way. You know, you're not running into traction rolling all the time and things like that. There's a lot that goes into setup, and it's a pretty steep learning curve for somebody that's completely new to it. To me, the benefit of the Kyosho stock class that we run at Area is that it limits the parts that are available to you as tuning options. So by decreasing the amount of options available, you're making the equation simpler because there's just less variables to change. There's not multiple different brands of tires with multiple different compounds and hardnesses, but at least for Area, they do allow aftermarket wheel selection. So wheel selection is a tuning thing, but also a durability thing. So that's the argument that'll come up a lot when it comes to what is and isn't allowed in any type of a stock class is, oh, that's a durability upgrade. So for me personally, my first Mini Z came as a C8 Corvette, and this body actually broke. I raced it every week. I loved getting to race the Corvette because I'm a Corvette guy, and I was super bummed when it did break, and that was probably about 3 months into racing Mini Z every single week. So when that C8 body broke, I went ahead and bought a C9 body because it was allowed at my track. And the draw of that for me was, A, I think the C9 looks cooler than the Joe Morema, but also I heard from somebody that they've never seen a C9 or a Joe Morema body actually break in an on-track crash. And when it comes to the Kyosho bodies, for $30, you can buy the white, unpainted bodies, or for $50, you can buy an auto scale, which is fully finished from Kyosho. And they look great. They really do look amazing. But there's a few downsides to them. A is that a lot of the ones that are GT3 car based, the splitters tend to catch on the track and spin you around. Now, in my mind, that's not really a problem if it's happening to everybody, because the class is actually limited to Kyosho bodies, because if everybody has the splitters, everybody's going to be heavily punished for mistakes, and I tend to drive pretty aggressive, so I'm always touching the wall on the inside of the corner. And with the body like the C9 or the Joe Morema, they kind of glance off the wall, so you can take those tighter lines, and it's not as risky to have a little bit of contact with the wall. So when it comes to the Kyosho bodies, there's 2 options. You can either buy an unpainted body for $30, and then you have to paint it, finish it, or you could run it white, but I don't think it looks very good. Or you could buy the auto scales, which look absolutely amazing, but they're $50. And if it's just gonna last a few months, that could add up to be pretty pricey if you're having to buy a $50 stock body every, 3-4 months, maybe even less if you have some hard crashes. So when you're talking about budget, if you want to race purely with auto scale bodies, that could actually kind of become a pricey endeavor. And in fact, when I raced at Spare Time the other week, I met a guy who was running the Audi body, and he's been racing for a while, and I told him, oh yeah, that's cool. I loved running the C8 body. And he said, I told him how mine broke, and he was like, oh, this is definitely not my first. I think he said he was on his 3rd or 4th Audi R8 body. He was painting his, so even 4 of the $30 unpainted bodies is still $120. And if it was somebody who wanted to look good and didn't feel comfortable painting, like me, that would be $200 for 4 Kyosho auto scale bodies. That's the price of a whole nother Mini Z. So in my mind, the other bodies should totally be allowed in a box stock class, because at the end of the day, the goal isn't necessarily to only use things that came out of the box. The goal is to have an affordable and approachable racing class. So I'm not going to get into all the many different things that you could change, but I think so long as the suspension and electronics are all Kyosho or box stock, so you can get out into the weeds of, oh, are we going to allow people to run bearings? Are you actually going to tech that? Are you going to tech everybody's bearings? Or are we going to allow them to run PN wheels or maybe 3D printed wheels? The goal with the stock class should be approachability. So when you're coming from the point of view of approachability, some upgrades that are done for the sake of durability would actually be furthering the objective of making it an affordable class. Because if you can buy one $30 body and race that till the end of time, that will keep racing Mini Zs affordable for that person. And everybody has a different story. For me, it's kind of become like a big part of what I do every week. I really enjoy it. But I know some people, it's kind of a side hobby and maybe they don't want to throw a bunch of cash at it. Maybe they got into it specifically because the consumables are affordable compared to other types of RC and then racing in general, which is a lot of why I'm in it. So I would say durability upgrades should definitely be allowed in box stock classes. And then when it comes to tuning options, like, you know, allowing springs and T-plates and stuff like that from other brands, I think that's kind of a discretion call maybe. But one thing I've learned after racing everything from RC cars to go-karts to sim racing is that people are always going to figure out within the set of rules what the fastest possible setup is, and typically the whole class will kind of narrow down and develop in that same direction. As long as you have racers that are willing to share with the community and talk to the new people and help them get their stuff set up, I don't think that opening up tire options, spring options should be that big of a problem in a stock class. But that's just the way I see it, again, because for me a box stock class has two goals, which are affordability and approachability, or approachableness, I don't know. It should be relatively easy to get your stuff set up. You know, you shouldn't have to be comparing 18 different rear motor pods to see which one's the best. Like, that's the beast you're trying to circumvent with the box stock classes. You don't want people who've spent, you know, they have a $700 car, but they've spent like $2,000 on different parts trying and testing and perfecting their car. There's definitely a place for a class like that, but the goal of a box stock class is to be easy and approachable. That's my take on it. I personally do enjoy stock class racing. I think the Kyosho tires is one thing. I like that class, but those tires are so limiting compared to the PN and market tires. So that car is like my patience car. Like when I race the Kyosho stock class at area, I always have to like lift, you know, like half the straight earlier than you do with the PNs and the Marcas, just because the amount of grip they have is a complete other world. But I'm curious, if you had your own track, what would the box stock rules look like? Put it down in the comments below and let's chat about it.